We are mere weeks away from the start of the 2024 college football season, and a lot of change is happening, from conference realignment, playoff format, but most importantly, the uniforms. A lot of teams are releasing new uniforms for this year, and I think we should have all of them released by now.
It would in fact not be the only jerseys released.
There's a lot of fire combinations, there's also a lot of mid, so we're going to be taking a look at every single combination throughout the country. If you want to see specific Big 12 uniforms, I did make a video about that a couple weeks ago, so go check that out if you haven't already. But for this video, we're going to be taking a look at all of the rest of the uniforms. If I miss any, let me know, but let's get right into it. First team that we're going to take a look at is Illinois, and I guess this is a pretty big year for them. It's the 100-year celebration of the opening of Memorial Stadium. So they're coming out with a lot of throwback looks for this year. Let's start with what I like about these throwback looks, and that's the helmets. So they're going to be rocking 3 different throwback helmets, one for each era leading up to modern day. The first up we have representing 1962 to 1968. This was the Dick Butkus years at Illinois. It's a pretty simple look, but I actually really do like it. I like the navy numbers against the orange helmet and the 4 stars on top. The flat gray face mask does do a lot to give it that retro feel. It's a really solid look, but I think my favorite of the 3 is this next one. This arched Illini logo representing 1971 to 1987. And I like this for a lot of the reasons why I like the last one. The gray face mask does a lot to give it that retro feel. But I really like the arched Illini logo. It looks very old school, very timeless, but also I love the stripes that they have going up the middle of the helmet. I think it's one of the best that they've ever come out with. Typically you just see the white and blue stripes, but this one incorporates the middle orange stripes surrounded by white and blue stripes, which I think looks better than any other combination they've had so far. And then the last era, the underlined Illinois logo from 1989 to 2012. A lot of us might still be familiar with this logo. I think it's really solid. I do like the white face mask on the orange helmet. It gives kind of a creamsicle vibe, and the Illinois logo spelled out looks really nice. All 3 of these helmets I'm a big fan of. I can't wait to see them on the field. Now we'll get to the part that I'm not so much of a fan of. Again, this is the 100-year anniversary of the opening of Memorial Stadium, so they're doing a 1-for-1 replica of the 1924 uniforms that they wore that first year. And right off the bat, I really appreciate the attention that went into getting all the little details right in this uniform. Apparently they spent multiple years getting all the painted stitching right on the helmet, and a lot of teams back in the day had those vertical striped uniforms. But as cool as the helmet is, I think this look might need to stay in the trophy cases of history. I just don't think it translates super well to the modern look of football. But again, shout out to any of the artists that were involved with getting this replica leather helmet onto a modern day football helmet. As a whole, with this throwback concept, I'm gonna give it a B+. I think they executed it really well. It's just this 1924's uniform. It's cool to look back in a museum or in old footage, but as an actual modern day football uniform, it's kind of ugly. Next up, we have a Vanderbilt all white uniform that they're gonna be rocking this year. And it's really hard to go wrong with an all white uniform. I think the white uniform with the gold numbers and names on the back looks really nice. My favorite part of the whole look is the helmet itself. A lot of people I know are more of a fan of the star logo that they had a few years ago. I personally think that this new logo looks pretty good on this white helmet. I do like the numbers on the shoulder pads, but other than that, I mean, it's pretty plain. It's not taking too much of a risk, which as we start to go down this list of uniforms, I think you'll see a pattern from Nike. I don't have anything that's blowing me away from this uniform, so I'm gonna give it a B. It's a good look. It's a very clean, simple, but not taking any risks. It's a good uniform. Next up, we have the UAB Blazers, and this is actually a pretty big deal for these new uniforms for UAB. We have officially gotten rid of the gold helmets. They were kind of getting phased out last year, but now they're completely gone, which I think is for the best. They have 3 combinations that I think all look better than those old gold helmets. I really do like the direction they're going with the dragon logo on the helmet, kind of simplifying a little bit, making it a monochrome color. My favorite one of the 3 for the helmets is probably the lime green on the white. I think it pops really well, and I think the logo looks really cool in that color. As far as the uniforms go, it's not the worst uniform at all. I really do appreciate Under Armour for going a little bit more unique than just the stripes on the shoulder pads that we're seeing from a lot of these Nike uniforms. And I've said this in the past, I don't love the Under Armour logo right smack in the middle of the jersey. I think it's better to just put the team's logo in the middle, but that's a pretty minor detail. I typically don't like gray uniforms either, but these ones I think look pretty good. It's a little bit awkward with the green helmet. I hope they just rock white helmets with the gray uniforms whenever they do. But I do like the striping up the side with the Blazers printed out. I think that looks really good. Overall, I'm gonna give it a B+. So next up, we have Western Kentucky, and this is a pretty simple one. I think they got whole new uniforms last year, if I'm not mistaken. This year, they're just releasing some throwback helmets. There's two of them. They have the block WKU helmet with the black face mask, and then they have the other helmet with the script tops on the side and the white face mask. I really like both of these for different reasons. Typically, if any team comes out with any kind of cursive logo on the helmet, I'm hook, line, and sinker. I love it. But in this case, I actually do prefer the block lettering WKU. I think it looks really cool, really timeless. I'm glad they're bringing it back. But the reason I like the other helmet is the white face mask with the red helmet. I think that just looks more modern, more sleek, more clean. But I think they came out really good in their own respect. So I'm gonna give it a B overall. I think they should look really good with the uniforms that they came out with last year. Good job, Western Kentucky. Next up, we have Notre Dame. And I'll just say the first time I saw these, I didn't even think they were real. I thought there was some fan that came up with some concept on Twitter, but these are real, and these are one of the most amazing uniforms that I have ever seen. And just getting right into it, the showstopper for this uniform is obviously the numbers. They're a gold, beveled, Gothic type text, and the way the light hits it, it looks like it's popping right off of the jersey. And it just fits Notre Dame really well. I think the Catholic Church with the old Gothic architecture, this is screaming that to me. And you just pair the gold numbers against the navy canvas with the gold helmet on top. This look is amazing. I cannot wait to see these on the field. I believe they're gonna pull them out for the Shamrock series that they do every year, so it'll be really cool to see that. And they also have new home jerseys that they're unveiling this year. And these ones are pretty simple. They're nothing crazy, but they do have the white numbers with the gold outline, which I believe is a new thing. The Notre Dame logo on the shoulder pads, and then just those classic golden helmets with the gray face mask. You really can't go wrong. Notre Dame has had a timeless look forever, and I'm glad they're not changing it anytime soon, only to do those alternate uniforms for the special occasions. This is one of my favorite looks I've seen in a long time. It's very imaginative, it's very unique, and I'm typically not the biggest fan of Under Armour sponsoring schools, but this is amazing. I've never seen Nike do anything like this other than for Oregon. I can't do anything but give this an A++++. This is probably one of my favorite looks. And next up, we do have the Oregon Ducks, which of course Nike is doing the most for Oregon as they go into the Big Ten. They're coming out with their Generation O jerseys, which I've seen somewhere that they said is going to be up to 5 different combinations. So far, I believe we only have 3 of them. This first one is called the Fly Era. It's an all black from head to toe. They're bringing back kind of that winged look that they've had for so long. And also the metal shoulder pads that they had back in 2008 and for a few years there, that was a pretty iconic look. It's just that typical kind of modern industrial type feel from Oregon that we've seen in quite a few different looks for them. It's not my favorite of the 3, actually. I do like the other 2, so let's take a look at those ones. So going from all black to all green, we have the gang green look, is what they're calling this one. And this is kind of a blend of old and new. They have the throwback duck logo on the shoulder pads, but then the modern O on the helmet. I do like what they did with the all green helmet, and the yellow numbers pop really well against that green jersey. It's a really cool look. It kind of reminds me of the 90s era of Oregon. It's hard to say anything bad about this uniform. It's one of my favorites, not only for Oregon, but in the entire country. And then for the other combination, it's kind of the same as the gang green. They just have the white jersey with the green numbers and green collar. They still have the throwback duck on the shoulder pads, and then the all yellow helmet with the modern O and green on the side. The helmet really screams out to me. I just kind of like it when the face mask matches the color of the helmet. For some reason, it looks really cool to me. and this yellow just jumps out at you. And same with the pants combined with the white jerseys. It's a really loud combination, but I think it comes together really nice and really pays homage to those 90s eras, but also incorporating the modern day Oregon Ducks that we all recognize. Overall, Nike has done it again for Oregon, so I'm going to give them an A. I would have given them an A+ if it wasn't for the black jerseys, which I do like. It's just not my favorite look. Very solid rotation for Oregon heading into the Big Ten. And next up we have ULM, which sneakily is coming out with one of my favorite helmets of the year. And this helmet is supposed to represent the P-40 Warhawk, which was a fighter plane back in World War II. The Warhawks being the school mascot. This comes together really nice, and this is such a mean look for them. The only thing I wish they would have changed was a chrome face mask to match the decal on the side of the helmet. I think that would have pulled it together perfectly. But even with this kind of flat reddish maroon face mask, I still think it looks amazing. I mean, throw one of these throwback shark razor tooth decals on the side of anything and it makes it look cooler. I really hope they keep these for a long time. It sounds like they're going to be their primary helmet. So I'm really excited to see what these look like on the field. I'm going to give them an A. Next up, we have the Cal Bears, and unfortunately, it looks like Nike spent way too much time with Oregon and not enough with Cal, because they just kind of got that mailed in standard Nike template that we're seeing a lot of teams get nowadays. The one thing I do really like about these new uniforms is the throwback C helmets that they have, the yellow ones with the white and blue stripes up the middle. I think that's the best part of the uniform. But as far as the jerseys are concerned, they're just very simple, very generic. These Nike templates have a very high floor, but a very low ceiling, because there's just not much individuality with these uniforms. And I get you don't want to do too much with a football uniform. You want it to look timeless, you want it to look clean, and this does for sure. It's just a little boring after seeing it so many times for so many different teams. So I'm gonna give it a C. It's not that I hate it, but I don't love it either, so moving on. And right after I get done saying that Nike spent all of their time with Oregon, we get the Tennessee uniforms, which it's clear a lot of time, attention, and detail was put into this uniform, and I love it. I mean, I don't even know where to begin with these. Like I said, I'm typically not a fan of the gray uniform, but the way Tennessee does it is completely different. It's kind of a dark gray, almost black charcoal gray, and it looks so good with Tennessee across the chest, the orange numbers on front and back. The helmet is beautiful. I actually really like what they did with the offset stripes up the middle with the thicker orange and the smaller white going up the middle. Let me know, Tennessee fans, if that's for any reason or if it's just a design choice by Nike. Anyway, I really like it. And then the subtle Smoky Mountains painted into the side of the helmet just is the cherry on top of this beautiful uniform. This is, again, one of my favorites of this year. It's an A+++. I can't give it enough pluses. This is a beautiful uniform. Now, next up, we have Virginia Tech, and this is supposed to be a reimagined uniform from 1999. And it's pretty familiar from what we're used to for Virginia Tech. A little bit of change, obviously. I do like the filled-in numbers with the Hokie stone pattern. I think that's a really nice touch that Nike gave them. The white helmet is my favorite. Again, like I said, the white face mask with the white helmet, and then the Virginia Tech logo on either side with the maroon and orange stripe up the middle. It looks so nice. The shoulder pad numbers pop really well on both combinations. I think they did a really good job with these new uniforms, making subtle yet meaningful changes to modernize the look, but also keeping that same brand and that same identity of Virginia Tech. I have to give them an A. This is an amazing look for them. I think fans should be really happy with these uniforms. And now we have Oregon State. And the first thing that jumped out to me when I looked at these uniforms was that white helmet with the black face mask. I think that's probably the best element of these new uniforms that they've come out with. And low-key, I think Oregon State might have one of the most underrated logos in the game. I'm a big fan of the beaver head that they have going on. Let me know if you guys agree or not. Other than that, there's not a whole bunch of change. It's still kind of that base Oregon State look that we've been used to. It looks like there is some subtle texturing on the numbers, and I'm kind of thinking it's a beaver tail texture. Let me know if I'm wrong, but if it is, I really like that. The only thing I don't love is the stripes going along the top of the shoulder. I've never been a huge fan of that. I think I saw that when the Colts rolled out their new uniforms from last year. I wasn't a big fan either. It's a really minor detail, and it doesn't really take away from me liking this uniform as a whole. The all orange helmet looks pretty nice. I do like that the beaver kind of matches the color of that orange on the the side of the helmet. As long as they get that color to match the jerseys on the field, that's kind of a pet peeve of mine when it's a different shade helmet from the actual uniform. So I hope that comes out well when they actually wear them on the field. But overall, not bad at all. I'm gonna give this uniform a B+. And next up is Purdue. I had to actually look at last year's uniform for them to see what was different, and really there's not a whole lot. I appreciate them kind of sticking to their tradition that you don't have to make drastic changes year over year. You can just stick with the original branding, which is what Purdue kind of looks like they're going for. They did just get hit with that kind of mailed in Nike template that a lot of teams are getting right now, with the 3 stripes on the shoulder pads and the 3 stripes up the helmet. It's a really nice classic look. I guess it's kind of reminiscent of the Drew Brees days at Purdue, which is fun to see, but it's just kind of boring. I mean, I'm just gonna give it a C just because it's that same Nike template that we've seen from other teams. So again, don't love it, don't hate it, but don't have any strong reaction either way. Now, next up is Miami, and this is kind of similar to Purdue, where they're sticking to their traditional looks and not doing anything crazy with their main uniform. But the difference is the Miami look is just a little bit more iconic than Purdue. The colors pop, they're more vibrant, they're more fun. And I think Miami did a really good job at just recognizing that and just sticking to the classic look and letting that be their identity this year. You really can't go wrong with any of the orange, white, or green combinations. Any way you want to mix and match it, it's gonna look good. But then they also do have an all black alternate uniform that I'm sure they'll bring out once or twice a year for a big night game. I do like the silver outline of the numbers. It's just not my favorite, and I hope they only bring it out once or twice and just kind of stick to their classic look for most of the year. Overall, I'll give the uniform an A. I think there's not anything that I can say bad about it. Great job to Miami for just sticking to the basics and letting their history speak for themselves. Now, next up we have the Boise State Broncos, which again, it's nothing crazy from what we've seen from them in the past. There's a few minor tweaks here and there. I guess they reversed the colors on the shoulder pads, a bigger font. They have shoulder numbers on the black jerseys. Right off the bat, I think my favorite combo for them is that blue helmet with the white face mask, and then the written out Broncos logo on the side with the orange jersey and then the blue pants on the bottom. I think that's an awesome look for them. It's a very retro look to me. It reminds me of the old Denver Broncos uniforms back in the day. The only thing I'm not a huge fan of is the oversized decal on their normal helmets, which I know they've been doing it for a long time, and obviously a lot of people like it if they've been keeping it for so long. It's just never been something that's appealed to me personally. It's not a huge deal breaker to me. I do like that they put the numbers on the side of the helmet. No crazy changes for Boise State this year, but just a solid look. I'm gonna give it a B+. Next up, we have North Texas in Sadly. This is just, again, one of those mailed in Nike templates. I do like the shade of green. It kind of reminds me of the throwback Eagles jerseys that we saw from last year. And I actually really do like their white helmets that they're rocking with the enlarged eagle wings on the side. It almost reminds me of Oregon's winged helmets as well. But aside from that, there's just not a whole lot to be blown away from. It's just pretty generic. It's never going to be outdated. I have to give it at least a B. Next up, we have Ole Miss, who has some new powder blue road uniforms, which since about 2014, Ole Miss has been bringing back the powder blue look to their arsenal, and it's looked amazing every single time. At this point, there's not a lot of better uniforms in the country than Ole Miss. You can never go wrong with the all white look. It's very icy, very clean, and I like the flat numbers, just this single color powder blue numbers against that white backdrop. Pair that with the powder blue helmet and the red Ole Miss logo. This is one of the best uniforms in the country, and not even because it's doing anything risky or innovative like Oregon or Notre Dame. It's just very classic, and the powder blue helmets are very unique to Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin and the Rebels have been doing a really good job at making Ole Miss the cool school to play for, and this look is just adding to that. I'm gonna give it an A+. It's up there with my favorites of the year. Moving on, we have Minnesota, and this is actually their first new uniform since about 2018, and I really do like it. I think everything about it screams northern Midwest, kind of lumberjack woodsy feel with the maroon and the yellow. I think it might just be that flat number against the jerseys, kind of similar to what Ole Miss is doing. There's no outline or anything. I think that adds to kind of the retro-y vibe that we're getting. Again, my favorite part is the helmets. I think that's kind of a running theme for a lot of these uniforms because I think that's where teams can get the most creative in ways without going too over the top, but I do like the yellow helmet with the maroon face mask. The only thing that I'm not the biggest fan of, and this goes for really any team, is the matte colored helmets. It's just not my favorite. I like the glossy painted helmets better. I'm feeling between a B+ and an A- for these new Minnesota uniforms. Nothing crazy new or innovative again, but just a solid look, and I think it fits them really well. Well, surprise, surprise, as I'm editing this video, about 4 or 5 new uniforms dropped on Twitter. So we're gonna go through a speed round, go through these really quick, knock them out, and then get back to the end of the video. First one, this is my fault. I think I just up and missed this one. The Oklahoma has some throwback jerseys that they're gonna be rocking. I believe it's gonna be called the Sooner Legacy uniform. It's a pretty cool look. It's pretty simple, obviously. It's just a white helmet with a red stripe up the middle. Some different striping on the sides. Pretty standard throwback uniform. I think it's pretty solid. I'll give it a B+. Next one is Charlotte coming out with some gold threads. These ones actually look pretty sweet. I think it does look pretty unique with the gold and white combination in the helmet and the jerseys. It's pretty understated and pretty simple, but still something that I haven't seen a whole lot of. So I'm gonna give it an A. I really like this one out of Charlotte. Some more all white uniforms here for the Mississippi State Bulldogs. They got some texture striping on the helmet, on the shoulder pads, and in the numbers. Like I've said so many times, you can't really go wrong with an all white uniform. These look really nice for Mississippi State. I'm gonna give it an A. It's a good look. Next up, we have the Kansas Jayhawks. I mean, technically, I guess this is a new uniform from them. It's nothing crazy from anything we've seen from them in the past. The only real difference is they have the rock chalk on the shoulder pads, which is cool. Kansas, let me know if this is something you guys have wanted to see for a while. In my opinion, it's all right. It's nothing too crazy from what we've seen from them in the past, so I'm just gonna give it a C. It's not super exciting, it's just pretty average. Next is ASU coming out with another alternate uniform. They've come out with some pretty cool looks in the past. Adidas has treated them very well, and I'm a big fan of ASU's uniforms. I think they have one of the best combinations in the country. This is an all gold look with a maroon helmet. Nothing too crazy, especially from what we've seen from them in the past, but it's a solid look. It kind of has that similar texture to what the Mississippi State uniforms had. I do like the all maroon helmet with that classic trident on the side. I'll give it a B+. Next up, instead of the all white, we have the black uniforms here for Texas A&M. In my opinion, I'm just not a huge fan of it. It's just a black jersey, white numbers, white Texas A&M branding on the front. It almost looks like a practice jersey in my opinion. I think Adidas could have drawn up something a little bit more creative for them, but it does say, yeah, it's back on the Texas A&M Twitter, so maybe this is something the fans have been asking for a while, I don't know. But it's a little lackluster in my opinion. I'll give it a C. And I haven't given any new uniform this year anything lower than a C, and I think it's just because everything is pretty good and nothing is too egregious, but there are some that are just a step above the others, and this one is just not that. And this should be the last one that I missed, and this is going to be the Louisville Cardinals uniform. It's a cool look for them by Adidas. They're all red uniform with gold lettering and gold numbers. I do like the subtle winged patterns into the shoulder pads. It's a nice subtle touch for them. The gold colors are cool. I don't know if this has any special meaning to Louisville or why they ended up doing this. Let me know if you guys know in the comments section. It's a cool uniform. Louisville always has kind of a clean look, and Adidas always does really well with them. So I'm gonna give it a B+. It's not my favorite by any means, but definitely not the worst. And that concludes the speed round. I'm sure I'm gonna post this tomorrow, and there's gonna be 5 more uniforms that are dropping, but this is the best I got. So back to the video. And last, but certainly not least, we have the Air Force uniforms, which just came out the other day, and we may have to strap in for these. The service academies have been coming out with some incredible uniform combinations over the past few years. And I believe Air Force is going to be rocking this look for the Navy game, which is going to be so cool. And this look is just completely ridiculous. It's so amazing. They need to save some drip for the rest of the teams in the country. But getting into it, these uniforms pay tribute to the Air Force Special Operations Command. On the crown of the helmet is the winged dagger insignia of the AFSOC. It's supposed to represent the swift and silent mobilization of forces. On the back of the helmet, they're going to be having their motto, which is any place, anytime, anywhere. On the left shoulder, they're going to have one of 3 badges representing all of the Air Force special tactics. Going down to the pants, they have the dagger on the left side and first there on the right. And the red accents are supposed to be representing the red berets, which are worn by the combat controllers. Man, these are one of the best uniforms I've seen in a long time. It's hard to pick which is my #1 favorite uniform from this year. but this one would definitely be in the running for it. We'll have to see what Navy and Army come out with. I don't know if they've released their uniforms yet, but I'm sure they will. Great job to Air Force. Thank you to all of the service academies for not only serving the country, but also coming out with some fire uniforms on the field. But that's all the uniforms that I've seen so far. Again, let me know in the comments if I have missed any. Let me know what you guys think of the uniforms, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.